Good evening, Shaggy SoCal with 2Old4Forza, and time for track guides for week 4 of TNT 41 in the Honda CRX. I'm guessing this will be race 1. We're going to be heading to Brands Hatch, the Indy circuit, and Matt just indicates weather with a question mark. So we'll run questionable weather. So again, like I always do, I'm just going to run an outlap. Talk you around the circuit, then I'll run a mock race, kind of, with what might the conditions be, who knows, and then just kind of talk about, how this car, what this car needs, dry versus wet, gearing, and like that. So we're gonna start this off. Let's get into the test drive here, and before I do that, as always, because that makes the slow lap easier. Let's go ahead and nope. I'm going to change things up a little bit, even though I know there's potential for weather. I think it's probably best to do this guide in the dry, and then we can talk about what changes or adjustments we need to make if it goes wet. I don't need to do that. Stay in third gear for bottom bend. Fifth gear into kidney. Third gear in clearways. Back onto top straight. And that's a lap of Brands Hatch. But I'm going to do one more flyer here since it's such a short lap. Fourth gear, paddock hill bend, brake right before the blend line, down to third gear. Get back on the gas, get the back set. Fourth gear up the hill, brake at the bridge. Down to second gear, a little wide entry. Late apex, back on the gas, down the hill. Bring the car back out to the right, brake right at the curbing, and I keep downshifting. You don't need to do that here. In the dry, you can get on that if you need to. Third gear, fourth gear. Just crack the throttle just a little bit to get into kidney. Brake just as you get past the curbing, and third gear through clearways. So let's slow that down, and then back on the front straightaway. And again, I'll hug the inside here as we head to start finish, and just kind of let the car naturally drift back to the left as we cross start finish. So yeah, really fast lap. I mean, we're talking in the dry, I think bucket 5 will probably be down in the 56 seconds. And I think in the wet, even the wet, it's still, I think the fast guys will be able to run sub 1 minute laps, which is going to make the start of the race really interesting. So in the dry, again, where I'm braking at is right before the blend line here for pit out, and I'm almost kind of lining it up where I'm kind of meeting the corner of where the pit lane exit meets that blend line to point into the bend. So it's just fourth gear, heavy on the brake, and I'm releasing it. And again, it gets to a point where it's in rhythm, but really I want to have the car slowed down by the time I'm passing that orange plate on the Armco there. And with this car, as soon as I get off the brake, I want to, ideally, if I've done it right, I really want to be getting back on the throttle to get some weight back on those rear tires. So really, you're going to be doing most of your braking with this car in a straight line, and then as you release the brakes, you want to be rolling back into the throttle, especially for a turn like this, because paddock hill bend. Again, Brian will attest. Game does not do this turn justice. As you turn in, if you don't have weight on that rear tires, as you start cresting the hill going down, back end's going to start to get loose. You'll especially feel it on cold tires right off the start. I mean, you'll know, oh yeah, the car's really not going to take a set until maybe about here, when you really start getting into towards the exit of the corner and into the compression at the bottom of the hill. I'll let the car come all the way out to the left side. You can get on the curbing again. It's nice being in a car that doesn't get too upset when you go slightly off track. Um, I would just say for your own practice and getting into rhythm and getting consistent lap times, try and be neat and tidy because if weather hits um, and you're used to kind of using that exit, the weather might screw that up just because there's less grip and it adds a couple extra variables. So I would say in your practice, try and be neat and tidy. Heading up the hill here to Druids, you can wind it out in third, and you'll be hitting the rev limiter just as you get to the top of the hill. Um, my own personal preference, I'd rather be in fourth. It just, for me, it seems the car just feels a little more comfortable, especially how I brake, because braking, turning in, I just find it better for me to be in fourth and drop it down to second than to wind it up in third, drop it down. Uh, but again, braking pretty much as you get to the bridge, um, down to second gear, turn in. Again, I think the ideal line, I think the braking, the suggested line's pretty good. You want to be a little bit wide on exit. You don't want to hug the curb all the way through. You can, but then try and do a late apex so you can roll back into the throttle and accelerate down the hill. Now, heading down here to bottom bend. In the dry, not a problem. In the wet, depending on how wet it gets, there's really horrible puddles that kind of go across diagonally. And so I've been playing around with taking a narrower line in the rain when that puddle's there, so that I can hit it straight, hit it straight perpendicular with the car, and it just seems to not upset it as much. But in the dry, I'm actually going to bring the car out as soon as I can and get it out to the right side, and again try to open this turn up as much as possible. Braking, I'll probably brake right about where the red and white curving starts here on the right side. Still in third gear. Leave it in third gear in the dry, and you should just be able to carry that. Bring the car in, get back on the throttle as you get to the apex, and power your way out. You can get on that curving a little bit. You can cross over a little bit. But if you start getting into the grass, that will hurt your lap time. And kind of the same on the exit. On the exit, you can, you'll probably see some of us get up here. If I'm up here, it's probably because I've carried too much speed through, or I didn't brake well enough. But I think ideally, especially getting to the wet, I really want to try and stay off the curbing and straddling the curbs as much as I can. Again, it's neat and tidy. So this is bottom straight. I looked up at the track map. So yeah, bottom straight here, and then because that one's higher up in elevation, that's top straight. So bottom straight in the dry, you can wind it out in the third gear before you get to kidney bend here, this left-hander. My personal preference is to put it in fourth in the dry. Now for kidney bend, so right about where that one board is, or maybe just a little bit past it in the dry, is where I'm going to crack the throttle ever so slightly just to get a little more, just to get a little bit of bite into the fronts to help turn in. Once the car's turned in, I might be able to get back to full throttle. But what I'm trying to do is kind of late apex it, maybe clip the curb here so that I can go straight across, still in fourth gear, and then late apex here. Now, clearways, I'm still trying to figure this one out. I don't know I don't know how, as far as the suggested line, I almost kind of want to say it's a generic line that is there. It's kind of a guideline. Doesn't mean that you should always follow it, depending on the car you're in. My one thought is with this car, because it's so momentum based and a D-class car, that I think there's some wiggle room as far as finding maybe a tighter line through here where, yeah, I'm going to shorten the distance. It's finding that balance between momentum and distance. I want to try and minimize the distance as much as I can, without losing so much momentum that that someone that's on the outside would just blow past me. So I'm still trying to experiment with that. The other thing too here is it's really easy to miss your braking and then go straight wide into the grass on the left side. So I like taking this kind of narrow in my braking in the dry. Usually I'll start braking once I pass the red and white curbing here. So probably about maybe like a blink as that curbing disappears on the right is where I'll brake and drop it down to third. And then again, this is where I differ from what the line suggests. Doesn't mean it's faster, it just means it's what I'm doing. So figure, if it turns out that the suggested line's quicker, use it. But usually I'll hug the inside here a little bit. I'll cross over the suggested line. I might be a little bit wider on exit, maybe not. But then on exit, then third gear, I'll bring it back up to fourth. I usually will bring it back across and hug the inside here, and then just let the car kind of naturally drift out, mid-track, and then start bringing it back over to the left as I get to start finish. My own experimentation from the rain. There will be, obviously, in the rain, there's going to be slightly braking sooner than you would in the dry, obviously, and especially on the bottom straight as well. I'm finding that in a full wet, where in the dry I'm putting up to fourth gear and then dropping into through clearways. In full wet, I'm actually winding it out in third and actually going into second through clearways. So we'll see how that works out in the race. But again, not a lot of turns. This is very much a momentum track. So really focus on when you for the areas where you've got heavy braking, really focus on getting your braking done early, really before you turn in, and then as you're coming off the brake, try and get back to that throttle as soon as you can. Get some weight in the back of the car so that it's not sliding around and killing your momentum. And then for some of the other turns as well, just crack that throttle just a little bit, just to give you some bite on the front for turn in to help you through the corners. And yeah, this actually, I'm hoping this is. This car has raced really well, and there's been some really good racing, and I think it's going to be more of that here. There's definitely going to be comers and goers, depending on how people, if they mess up turns or like that. But you know what? I'm talking way too much and not doing any driving. So let me get out of the test drive, and actually let's just go ahead and get into the race, and then I can actually try and talk while I drive, which, if you've watched enough of these, I can't do that. So for this race, I'm actually going to go to the opposite. Matt's talked about when he likes doing rain races, he tends to prefer starting in the wet and having it go to dry. For kicks and giggles, I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to start dry for the opening phase of the race, and then actually get it progressively worse throughout. That'll that way I can talk about things that change as the weather changes. Same bucket, same cars again. I'm going the same class of cars I'm driving against. I've adjusted the touring car guys. I bumped them up a little bit ahead of me, just to give a little more space early in the race. Again, because it's such a short lap. It would not surprise me if I get lapped by the leading pack at the start. So let's go ahead and get into the race. When I was looking up, because I wanted to look up. I know most of the key turns at Brands Hatch, but I wanted to check a couple other things. But this actually was the Grand Prix circuit from 1954 to 1959, and I think then on to like 1975 is when they had the full circuit that we have, which is the GP circuit. IndyCar actually, and I forget the year IndyCar first raced here. I think it was sometime back in the 80s. They did a one-off. And then I think it was 2003. They actually ran a race here as well, and I believe it was Sebastian Bourdais' first win in what was then, I think it was still 2003. It was still kart. They didn't rename it Champ Car until the following year. But with that, let's listen for engine sounds. here in a second. Here they come. Oh, it's gonna get dicey. Oh my god, look at that pack. Ooh, sliding rear end. Getting third. Back out a little bit. I had a little bit more momentum than I thought I would. I have mentioned when I do these races, it is questionable racecraft, so. Gonna make me pick the outside, huh? I'll drop it a second here since I'm on the inside. I'm sure that's going to be a contested corner. Now I'm racing again a full field, so I don't think we're going to have 24 of us on Thursday, but getting clean laps is going to be very difficult, and especially the weather is going to make things very interesting. Ooh, yeah, I kind of a little dive bomb, not a big one, a little one. I heard some thunder. Again, the way the weather works is it'll change about a third of the way through the race once, and potentially change a third of the way through, or 2/3 of the way through to the end of the race. While Matt does have control of what the weather could be, he'll set percentages as far as the chances of that happening, and then the game kind of sort that out. So for me, for this, there's a 100% chance the weather's going to change a third of the way through, 100% chance it'll change again 2/3 of the way through. Thought I'm laughing myself. I've lost touch with the touring cars in front of me. Hopefully they get bogged down in traffic. Oh, he's going in the pits. Pitting from the lead? Back end just slid just a little bit there. Well, let's see if we can set a fast one before the weather changes. Get any more out of it? A little bit more. Your thunder. Uh-oh. Again, it's something I don't always pick up on. I pick up on it more if it's raining and then goes to dry. Is you'll really be able to tell not just when the car starts sliding, but when the road does get wet, you won't hear the tires squeal anymore, like you normally would in the dry. If you go back and you listen to my previous couple laps before it got wet, compared to now, no tire squeal, just more sliding sound. You notice there, I'm really not, when I'm getting out of the throttle, I'm not snapping out of the throttle. I don't want to induce a lot of extra weight transfer forward, which would lighten the back end and get it sliding all around. Just ease out of the throttle. Brake fairly late. I don't know how much longer I can do that. Definitely riskier now. You notice there's now puddles starting to form on the inside on the curbing at Druids. Nothing really down the hill there for bottom bend. I can still hug the inside of here, but when it starts to straighten out, you can just start seeing the puddles there form on the right side. If it gets heavier, that's going to be a problem. So I'll talk about this on the next lap, but my braking adjustment for Paddock Hill Bend, instead of in the dry where I'm braking almost where the blend line is with the pit lane. Oops, second gear. See, it can't talk and drive. Oh, a little too wide. The braking for Paddock Hill Bend in the wet, what I'm looking at there is as you're heading down the front straight, you're going to notice right before I brake on the left side, there's a camera tower. Kind of see it or stand there. See it there on the left, passing right about now. So as that goes out, not the TV stand. It was, maybe I should have done the wet slow lap first. Tell you what, I'll pause it briefly to show you. Corner worker shack. I want to make sure that I'm very clear what I'm looking at, because past that is the camera position. That's not what I want you to look at. So let me get back around there. I'll just pause it really quick. Okay, let me just go into photo mode. What I'm looking at is not my car. Is this? I think that's an outhouse or porta potty. Okay, so, but again, as you're coming down, you can kind of see the porta potty with the extra kind of angled fence there. That's what I'm using in the wet as far as an additional reference point for braking for turn one. Again, because it's a bit slicker, I'm gonna brake a little bit earlier to make sure that I got the car, settled as it goes into that bend. Because the last thing I want to do is go in too hot and then have it slide out and go wide on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. So again, look for the porta potty. I just totally missed. Oh, got a little wide. Braking for Druids is still about the same. Maybe at the one board, if you really want to be conservative, you can use the kind of the orange painted portion of the Armco on the left side. Maybe braking there just as I get to the beginning of that curbing. So let's see, 34 divided by 2, 17. Okay, so I'm going to pit halfway through. I'll pit on lap 17. Yeah, because pit lane is always interesting at Brands Hatch. Maybe not the exit, but the entry definitely is. Okay. A little too close to do the crossover, but I think I can still make it work. Again, moderate rain, not a lot of puddles there in Druids. You might be able to get it up in the fourth, but still, I would, in the wet, I probably would just wind it out in third and then second gear out of here. The other thing you can key off of too, if you focus on the braking line a lot, is you'll notice it's almost like whoever drew the braking line around Brands Hatch didn't get the ends to meet well at where that pit lane blend line is. You'll kind of see the line is a little off from start and end, and that kind of off kilterness, that you can use that as a reference point as well. And I think I'm going to be pitting at a good time. So, pit lane, second gear, hug the inside, just follow it in. Brake just as you get to where that, that big wrench indicator is. Because even though race regs are going to be on, I think that bundle of tires is still there regardless. So, if you want to mess with everybody else behind you, you can always try plowing through those tires, but just understand it's going to slow you down on entry as well. So, again, exiting pit lane, if it's wet, stay to the stay in there, kind of brake right at the edge of the wall and then out. Yeah, that was a lot of good English there. Definitely practice pit in here, and it is a little bit tricky. Big puddle starting to form on the inside there. Okay, my lights just came on. Must be getting a weather change here. Little wide. You can kind of see in moderate rain that you can see the puddle that's forming there on the left side. So definitely in moderate rain, get the car over to the right as you're getting to the bottom of the hill there. Big puddles forming there on the inside. I get it right. A little wide. Okay, yeah, we're now into heavy rain. I want to play with the line down the hill out of Druids, just so you can. You can kind of get an idea of how the puddles move the car. Nice thing is, even though there are some big puddles, well, hang on, let me talk about that in a second. Go out here. Yeah, so if you try to bring the car out in the normal line as if it was dry, the car's going to hydroplane a little bit because you're staying in that puddle probably a little longer than you need to. So if you can find a line through there that you can hit that puddle, minimize the amount of time on it. Obviously, hitting it perpendicular is probably the easiest, best way to get through it, but it's a weird line down that hill. Try it again. Yeah, even though there's a lot of big puddles there on the inside of Druids, it shouldn't upset the car too much. That's probably the best line you can take through that puddle, where you're just going straight over it. Trying to avoid hitting the Audi again. And yeah, if you're going to hug the inside on the exit of the clearways, just make sure you get the car back over. You're not hitting the puddles on the inside there. I don't think it'll suck you into the wall, but it'll certainly break your momentum. Oh, thank you. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, put it right in the middle. Yeah, I'm just going to hug straight down here. I don't know, that line might work. Maybe it won't. Ooh, he's going to make me take the far inside. to go. Oh, overcooked it a little bit. Wide there. I'm actually going to try that in third gear lap. Maybe now that I'm a little bit more comfortable, third gear will work there in the wet as well. Excuse me. Actually, that might be the better line. A riskier line because you don't get it right, it might put you off on the right side. Whoop! Okay, almost got on the brakes too late. I was thinking a couple turns ahead and wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. So again, heading down in the bottom bend. So I'm just gonna leave it on the left side and just follow this angle straight down. Yeah, see, that's the risk if you get it wrong. Oh, no. Why we practice. Ooh, I didn't time that right. I set up a little bit wide and was going to look for the crossover. I just released the brakes too early. So maybe not quite. A little bit. Because again, if you take the normal line, the car's going to get a little unsettled because you're going to be in those puddles a little bit longer, and you'll hydroplane a little bit. So you just might feel the car just kind of. It'd feel like a sudden understeer moment. And again, don't hug. Yeah, don't hug the inside wall in heavy rain. Home stretch. Guessing the leader, who we don't know who that is, unknown, probably still has to hit. And yep, as well as second. So we'll see if we can. I think they're still going to come out ahead. My little excursion did help. Oh, fifth place is going in. Right, how many am I going to pick up here? Just going to catch those guys as they're coming out of the pits. Ooh, that's going to be the other thing too. People are exiting the pits. And if you got a head of steam, you're going to have to take paddock heel bend probably a little wider than you're used to. Just plan accordingly. You could probably take that in third. It's not as logy as I thought. Slides a little bit more. Pushing a little wide. A little bit wide. Yeah, I think that's probably why I like second through there. It just helps keep the car a little bit more planted, just because you've got less grip. And last lap. And that's Brands Hatch with weather. That's Indy with weather. I'm guessing the hard thing with figuring out depending on what the weather's doing as far as how many laps the race will be, is and I did 34 laps, and it took me 35 minutes roughly. So if you're figuring out like how many laps it'll be, it's going to be in and around there, depending on what time, what lap time Matt uses kind of as his uh, median or average lap time to kind of calculate the race distance. But yeah, 34, 35 laps maybe for this race at Indy. And again, it's going to be a lot of traffic. And not many obvious places to set up passes. Again, it's going to be like any most of the other these momentum races we've had, like at the Nürburgring or thinking back to Sonoma, where it really is. It's more about capitalizing on somebody else's mistake in front of you to get that run, and then just making sure you've got the timing right to capitalize on it. So patience will be needed, and hopefully some good luck, and hopefully some good weather. Watch it; he'll have it set, and it won't rain at all the entire race. But with that, I'm going to call it a night for this one. The other track that we're racing next week is Prague Full Reverse. So I'll probably do that track guide sometime over the weekend and get that up for you. So hope you guys have a great weekend and happy racing.